My pleasure to welcome the Reverend Elizabeth Stamper. We're going to talk lovers, healers, and strangers.
This happens to me every time I'm here. I get here so eager to give this message that I've been practicing really for my whole life to try to articulate what is love and how we can be it. And then at a certain point in the joys and concerns, I want to jump up and say, my joy is that I'm here and I get to talk to you. And my concern is that there's not going to be enough time for everything I have to say. So thank you again for inviting me. And yes, I'm going to talk about lovers and healers and strangers. And also, hopefully, some key understandings of these roles that we all play in our lives. At some point, we're always one of these things, sometimes all of them all together. And what we can understand, some concepts, some skills we can use to be better at being a lover, better at being a healer, and better at being both being a stranger ourselves and being with strangers. So what is love? I'm going to start with the lover. And I think love, it's like this morning when I first woke up, the thoughts just started, because I never know until the morning of how I'm going to start the talk or how I'm going to organize the 17 pages of notes that I've been taking all week and all these ideas that I have. And the first thing that came to me as I'm just climbing out of bed was, what is love? And it just started flowing. Love is this, love is that, love is this. And the next thing that happened, I get my coffee and I walk out onto my balcony and there's the ocean, there's an osprey flying straight towards me. And I'm up on the 6th floor, so I didn't worry that he was going to fly into me, but he just at the very last moment, he's coming right at me. And then he swoops up, and I go over to the balcony, and I lean up, and there he is, perched on the roof, looking down. And it's like, oh, yeah, and that also is what love is. Love is like the universe or creation or God, that just when you need to know, to be reassured, to feel connected, it sends an osprey flying right towards you first thing in the morning. So one of the skills that we need to develop in being a better lover, better healer, better stranger, is curiosity. And I'm going to talk a lot about curiosity in each of the different sections of being a lover, stranger, healer. But I want to share first my favorite little anecdote about curiosity. You know how Jesus said, be like little children to enter the kingdom of heaven? And I think that's because partly they're innocent, but partly because they're still so curious about everything. They know that they don't know. And they're okay with that. They know that they don't know. Maybe frustrated a lot sometimes. But my daughter was telling me about her son, James, when he was about 8 years old, and he's all bubbling up in excitement about something. And she said, James, you know what I love about you? I just love how curious you are. And then he replies to her, she's like, oh my goodness, I am so curious. I just imagine an 8-year-old just, and I feel like we don't want to lose that aspect in ourselves, right? That curiosity. And what it ties to is, in Buddhism, beginner's mind. In beginner's mind, in the expert's mind, the one that in us that thinks, oh, I know, I've studied, I've got the degrees. In the expert's mind, there are few answers, but in the beginner's mind, there's a million possibilities. And that is a practice as well as a state of mind. I can practice beginner's mind. I call it don't know mind sometimes. I can just take a step back from what I think I know, what I think is going to happen, how it's going to play out, all the things I have perceived about you and patted myself on the back that I know you. I could take a step back and practice being really curious again. I don't know. Tell me more. Let me lean in and listen more closely. So beginner's mind, curiosity, don't know mind, take that practice into all your relationships, right? Because when we do, that person that maybe you've lived with for 20 or 50 years surprises you. Like, oh, you never told me that, or oh. And, you know, one thing, this is the lover part of the talk, is it's so easy when we've been with someone for a while to just have them all figured out in our head, to know so many of their quirks and their habits and their patterns. And they could be doing the same to us, of course. So what keeps us in beginner's mind and curious about each other is if we are committed to always growing and always learning. We're welcome to change. We're welcome to evolution. We're welcoming always to our own becoming. What is my next incarnation? Tomorrow. Tomorrow, who will I be? By the way, I just noticed that my pin on my shirt here. So this is my pin from the Women's March 2017. Took the bus from Melbourne, overnight bus ride to Washington, D.C., was there for the march, came back, and this little button is hiding the Calvin Klein insignia. And I don't think Calvin would mind, so there's that opportunity in every relationship, but especially with someone that you think you know pretty well, to just lean in and be curious and come back into, like, you know, my husband and I, we watch a lot of these detective shows, and so I was thinking about this morning. I noticed that there's different ways of asking questions, right? There's asking a question where you really know you don't know, and you're genuinely interested, and so that elicits a kind of a response. But in a lot of these detective shows, the people are being interrogated like, I already know you did it, so, you know, and they're asking the questions with that, and they don't get the same response. So just something to watch. If you're like, I really know that you left the oven on today, but I'll just say it like, did you leave the oven on today? So anyway, sidebar. So if we keep being curious and really deeply listening, letting go of what we think we know, then we may achieve that kind of experience that T.S. Eliot, in one of his lines from the Four Quartets, he said, "We must be still and still moving into another intensity for a further union and a deeper communion." We must be still and still moving. So we still our minds. We get still and quiet inside ourselves. And we're still moving in the sense that life is continuing. It goes on, and every day is a new chapter, a new possibility. So we're still and still moving, but into what? Into another intensity. I can get closer to my beloved. I can get closer to the people that I care about, into another intensity for a further union and a deeper communion. Wouldn't that be beautiful as people to put in their wedding vows? A deeper communion. So moving into this role we play as a healer, I will be helping facilitate today the healing circle. You're all welcome to stay. And the healing, we do it intuitively and instinctively, right? We all do. And the oldest forms of healing are laying on of hands or touching someone who's suffering, or saying just a kind word, or having a kind face when someone is hurting. So we offer that intuitively. And the thing I want the skill or the quality I want to talk about in this role of healer, and again, this applies to all of them, being a lover and a stranger as well, is trust. Is trust. As a healer myself, I've been a psychotherapist, an energy worker, breath worker for almost 40 years. And I have to trust every time I step into that role with anyone that I don't have to know what to do. I don't have to know what to say. I haven't got a script that's perfect for this person, in this individual, in this moment. I have to let that go and trust that my intention to be here and to be of service, to be an open channel for a higher wisdom, to be a channel for a higher, deeper love, I have to trust that and be curious. And be curious, just as curious as the person sitting in front of me about, like, what's next. So showing up as a healer and trusting that inner connection. And of course, because I'm also great advocate for meditation, what helps you gain that trust in your connection? Your spiritual practice. Do your spiritual practice and you will trust that connection. That you'll trust that your presence is enough, your love is enough, your listening is enough, your willingness is enough. And meditation really helps you start to know how to let go of that busy mind, that part of us that's so eager to know and so allergic to not knowing. So I think what I'm going to do in this moment is tell you a story. Let me get a tissue for my nose. Do y'all like stories? Has anyone heard me tell this story before or heard it somewhere else? The Bride with 10 Dresses? Oh, good. Okay. So once upon a time in a kingdom far away, it was being threatened all the time by this horrible, slimy sea monster that would just come out of the sea, come to the kingdom, and just start gobbling people up. So the king wants to figure out how to pacify this sea monster and make it go away. So arranges a meeting, and the sea monster says to the king, I will leave your kingdom and never bother you again if you let me marry your daughter, the princess. Or in another tale, the sea monster says, if you will let me marry your son, the prince. So anyway, of course, the king is not going to say yes automatically to that. He's going to go to his daughter or his son and ask what they think. Because it's called The Bride with 10 Dresses. I'm going to just go back to one gender right now. So he asks her, and she loves her father, she loves her kingdom, she loves all the people there, and she says, "Oh my goodness, this is big. Is he going to eat me when I marry him? Is he going to gobble me up too?" So she goes to the wisest person in her village and says, "What shall I do?" Part of her wants to take the next train out of there, right? So what am I going to do? And the wise woman looks deeply into her eyes, takes a breath, and says, "You must marry him. It will be for the highest good of everyone. But this is what you need to do. On your wedding day, wear 10 bridal gowns. Wear 10 dresses. And on your wedding night, when you come into the wedding chamber with your husband, your new husband, you must say to him, 'I will take off this wedding dress if you will take off one of your skins.'" And he agrees, and so she takes off one of the wedding gowns. He takes off one of his skins. And then there's another dress. He's still a slimy sea monster. So she goes through this again and again and again until she gets to the 10th. With each dress she takes off, he takes off another skin. And she gets to the last one, and she takes that off, and then he takes off his skin, and he's still a horrible, slimy sea monster. But she remembers also what the wise woman says, that whatever happens after you take off that last gown, you must embrace your partner. You must embrace this one. And so she does. She embraces him, they kiss, and his final skin falls off, and he becomes that, really good-looking guy. And they live happily ever after. So she had to have a lot of trust in order to trust the wise woman, trust that this was going to work. But really, this story is about how much trust it takes in our intimate relationships to be vulnerable with each other, to be honest. I'm going to take off the facade, my mask. I'm going to take off the persona for a minute that is the me that I create, that I want you to see, that I've groomed all my life so that you would like me or love me. I'm going to take that off, and underneath that reveal a little bit of my horrible, slimy sea monster. But the stuff I'm afraid to say, the stuff I don't want to share, my insecurities, my fear, my anger, my worries, my vulnerabilities. But it's only in doing that, even with a friend, a close friend, or a family member. Recently, I'm going to finish the other sentence. It's only in doing that the other person, they may meet you in that vulnerable space if they're capable of, and then your relationship deepens, right? Stronger communion, deeper union. And they may not. And at that point, you have kind of learned something about that person, that maybe they're not the one that you want to be your most vulnerable with. Recently, sometime last year, a friend of mine told me that I had said something that really hurt her feelings, really bothered her. She felt cut off. And I could hear her and go, "Oh my gosh, I see why you would feel that way. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Thank you so much for having the courage and the trust in our relationship to tell me that." And later, I marveled at how many decades it had taken me to get to that point where I couldn't just start defending myself. I couldn't start like, well, wait, you don't understand, or let me explain why I did what I did. It's like, no, I just heard her hurt, and I could trust in our relationship and take responsibility. And I learned something. Yeah, I actually can be like that sometimes, can I? Something I can watch, I can take. So let's talk a little bit about the stranger. How many of you are familiar with Valerie Kaur? She's a wonderful Sikh activist, filmmaker, author. Valerie Kaur is Sikh religion, the Sikh religion. And her latest book is called See No Stranger, and how she defines stranger is just someone you don't know yet. Someone I don't yet know. And all of the great religious spiritual masters from all the ages are always telling us, love the stranger. And yet here we are in a world that part of this world is hell-bent on getting us to be afraid of the stranger, to make an enemy out of the stranger. And where is that going? It's not going anywhere good to be afraid of the stranger. So there's another way you can embrace the idea that in any moment, you're just someone I don't know yet, but also you're someone I can be curious about. Every person I meet has the possibility of enriching my life, of bringing me a gift, of offering something I didn't even know that I needed. Every person I meet, right? And the person that we commit to, that we're committed friend or committed partner, that person, what if I were to see that person as a stranger and be curious again? So I'm going to end my talk in a poem I wrote a while ago about inspired by my beautiful partner, my husband. It's called How to Be Married. How to Be Married. Approach the one you know so well as the stranger that he is, for only then might you see who he's been and who he is daring to be. Touch the one who's so familiar as the holy beast she is, for only then might love surprise you with its wild truth again. Listen as if to a foreign tongue. Lean in to understand. Kneel to earn the deep soul's trust with your gentle mind and hand. Listen from your quiet innocence, knowing it never ends, and bow to the grace of love that flows when your stranger is also your friend. Oh, thank you. And does anybody have a question or a comment? I only have 17 more pages of notes if you want me to keep talking.
Let me just start by saying that was beautiful, and we thank you so much for that. That was wonderful.